Well, hello and welcome back. I'm glad you're here. This is Jennifer McGuire. So today I'm sharing ideas for creating vellum cards. Vellum is something that many of us have in our crafty stash, and it works great for creating unique cards. So today I have lots of examples with you. They're all very different, but they all incorporate vellum into a key part of the card. You may have seen me do some vellum card designs in the past. However, today I have lots of additional tips and ideas for you. So let's get started with my first example. This one takes advantage of one of my favorite things to do with vellum, and that is to heat emboss on it. So this is a vellum card, but in the inside is a mini cardstock card to write your message. I'll be using the new Altenew Engraved Flowers stamp set. This is such a classic set with lots of detail to the images. I like that there are several large images, so you can do a few cards all with different looks. Now I went ahead and created a top folding vellum note card. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'll talk about scoring vellum later. I'm stamping the large flower in the center of the note card with VersaMark ink, and I'm using a stamping tool just so I can get good placement. I then am adding silver embossing powder. When you heat set on vellum, make sure that you get your heat gun good and hot first and keep it moving to prevent warping. My favorite way to add color to an image on vellum is to color on the back side. The reason I do this is if you color on the back side, the color that shows through on the front is softer, which is something we want with that vellum look. So I like to use Copic markers, but you could instead use colored pencils, other types of permanent markers like Sharpies. Try out whatever you have on hand, it might just work. After I did some quick coloring, I heat set it with my heat gun just to make sure it was completely dry. Okay, now it's time to add some additional stamping around that flower. I picked some of the smaller images from the same stamp set, and I'm starting to arrange them very close up against the main flower. I'm again using VersaMark ink, but this time I'm using Hero Art's Satin Pearl Embossing Powder. This is my favorite color of embossing powder. It picks up a metallic shine of whatever color is behind it. So in this case with the vellum, it's just a pearly shine. And that pearly metallic look of this embossing powder goes nicely with the more bold silver embossing powder that we used in the center. When you want to fill an entire background, it's best to start in one corner and work your way around so you don't get any spots where you can't fit an image. But I continued to do this until the entire front of the card was covered. Next, I have a little mini white note card, it's top folding, that I created to go inside of the card. I'm using Gina liquid adhesive, but you could also use any kind of other tape here. And I'm taping the card inside of the vellum card. So when the recipient gets this, they open the vellum card, then they open this, and they can see our message. Now I cut a piece of cardstock to be slightly smaller than that, and I'm gluing that on the back of the card so that you can't see my glue on the other side. There are vellum-friendly adhesives out there, but I've never found one that I'm super happy with, so I find it best to just hide my adhesive by putting something on the other side. To finish off the front of the card, I used the Altenew Fine Frames die. This die cuts a bunch of super thin frames that are great for framing the part of a card that you want to be in focus. I took the 2 largest frames, kept those together, put liquid adhesive on the back of them, and then I centered that around my flower. This is cut from a soft purple color cardstock that matches the purple I colored on my flower. I also considered covering this with silver embossing powder, and I think that would have been another good option. So the only thing on the front of the vellum card is that frame and our stamping. Now for sentiment, I used the Altenew Needlework Motif stamp set. This stamp set is one of my most used sets of the year. The sentiments in here are wonderful, and they're perfect size to create little sentiment strips for any card. I stamped Miss You Always with dark purple ink on light purple cardstock and added that to the card front. And that's it. I didn't add anything else to this because I felt the shine of the embossing powder on that soft vellum was enough. So here you can see all that metallic shine. You can see how the card is see-through on the front, but when you open it up, you have the mini card inside where you can write your message. So this card idea is to create a vellum note card with a mini cardstock note card inside. Okay, my next two card examples are unique in that part of the card is made of vellum. In these cases, the top front of the card is vellum, so you can see through to the inside. This is the Altenew Handpicked Bouquet stamp set. This will be on my favorite crafty things this year because it is a well-designed set that has a lot to offer. It has that large outline floral image that you could stamp in color, or you could use the layering elements to stamp and fill it in. I like when you have both options. You can see how the layering is very simple, and you can see the layering guide that comes with the Altenew stamp set. And also there are multiple flowers on the one cluster, so if you want to change up some of the colors, you can. In the layering guide that comes with this set, there are also some card example ideas. Okay, so I have my MISTI stamping tool. I'm going to stamp a few flowers while I'm at it, so that's why I'm using the stamping tool. And I have a 5.5 by 8.5 inch piece of white cardstock. The reason I'm using a large piece of cardstock is I'm going to stamp the flower cluster once, rotate my paper, and stamp it again. That way I can make multiple images at once. So in this case, I'm stamping with VersaMark ink, and I'll add gold embossing powder. Now on the other piece of cardstock, I'll be doing the same stamping but with black ink. So one of my cards will have a gold outline and one will have black. Next, I can use the layering images to start adding the coloring to this. You could instead color by hand if you're one of those who likes to color, but I prefer to stamp, so this saves me a lot of time, and I just love the process. Now, I am using a new set of purple inks from Altenew. Altenew just came out with 4 new color sets, and at the end of this video, I will give you a closer look at the different colors included in those 4 sets. On this particular card, I'll use the purples and the greens. These images are very easy to line up inside of that outline stamped image that we started with. And I just worked my way from light colors to darker colors. I'm going to skip through some of this stamping just to save time in the video, but it is very simple to follow. And here you can see the green that I did for the leaves. So after I did stamping for all of my flower sets, I have these different options available that I can use today. The nice thing is I'm going to use 2 now, and I can save the others for future cards. I actually was going to decide which I liked better, the black outline or the gold, and I couldn't decide, so that's why I did 2. So I cut out each of the flowers and I'll set them aside while we make our note card. I have 2 pieces of purple cardstock that are 4 1/4 by 5.5, and a piece of heavyweight vellum that's 4 1/4 by 6. Now when you score vellum, you really want to press firmly with a bone folder, just to make sure to put a nice impression if you're using a heavyweight vellum. So I scored at 5.5 inches, and you can see the score line. You want to be able to see it. It should be white. Now I'm going to stamp on this piece. I'm using the Altenew Dainty Swiss Dots stamp set. This is one that I've used a lot in videos, and it's a favorite because those tiny little dots add a little interest but isn't too distracting on a background. So I have my stamping tool and I have my vellum piece. The score line is at the top of the piece here. I'm going to put this in my MISTI along with the dot background stamp. I'll use my anti-static powder tool, and then I will stamp with VersaMark ink and add that pearl embossing powder once again. I can't get over how beautiful that pearl embossing powder is on vellum, so I used it several times today. And remember, it's very important to let your heat gun get good and hot before you bring it to your vellum, and to keep your heat gun moving so you don't warp it. However, I find if you're using a high quality heavyweight vellum, you shouldn't have a problem. Now we're going to fold along that score line at the top of our vellum piece and reinforce it with the bone folder. This piece will hook on the top of one of our cardstock purple pieces, but we need to create the bottom portion of our card first. I'm using the Altenew Pinstripe stamp set. This is another one I've been reaching for a lot lately. I like that it adds the detail without being too distracting. So this card will actually have dots and stripes, but since I kept the stamping soft, I don't feel they fight each other too much. I'm stamping this with purple ink on one of the purple cardstock pieces. Now we need to connect these together. The vellum will be at the top, the cardstock on the bottom. And where they're separated, I'll have my flower. So the flower will be the divider between the vellum and the cardstock. So I'm putting my flower where I want it to be on the front of my card. And I'm using a pencil to just kind of trace along the top edge, so I know where to cut my cardstock. If you wanted to, you could just cut a straight diagonal line, but I wanted to hide the transition behind my flower. So now that I have my little pencil lines, I'm using my scissors to just kind of cut a little bit below the pencil line. This bottom half of the card we'll be using, that top half we won't. So now you can see how the flower covers the edge of the purple cardstock. So now we need to adhere the purple cardstock to the vellum. And here's the trick that I do. I need to attach my vellum onto the back of the card, the other piece of purple. I'm using strong double-sided tape for this, and I put it right along that flap, trimming off the excess. I then decided to trim off that excess vellum too, just for a cleaner look. Again, there are vellum-friendly adhesives out there that you could choose to use. I don't happen to have any of them anymore, so I decided just to use my regular double-sided tape. And I'll fold that over the top of the other purple piece. So now we have a note card with a cardstock back and a vellum front. Now let's add the other cardstock piece to the bottom on the front. To do this, I line it up with the bottom of our card, and then I'm going to shift it down just a little bit, like less than 1/4 of an inch. So watch, I'm going to shift it down, and I'll show you from the back how much I shifted down, just so you can see. I'll hold it there and flip it over for you to look at it. So you can see how that piece is hanging off the bottom just a hair. Then I'm taking my pencil and tracing that edge onto the vellum. Then I can use my scissors to cut the vellum along this line. Now keep in mind there are many ways you can make a vellum portion card like this. I'll link to a video where I did something similar, and I'll link it up here on the top right, so you can check it out if you want to see another design option. Now I'm putting strong liquid adhesive along the top edge of the cardstock piece. I will lay it down so the bottom lines up with the back of my card. Then we can close the vellum piece onto it. And those two pieces overlap just a little bit, but enough to glue them together and hold it there. So there you can see the vellum on the top and the cardstock on the bottom. Next, we'll take our flower piece and glue it onto the card so it covers up the two areas. Now I wanted my flower piece to stand out, so I did something crazy. I die cut 3 more flowers, didn't stamp them, just die cut them, and I stacked them together. Notice that there's some random stamping on that second die cut I just glued down. That's because I keep all of my white cardstock where I mess up stamping, and I use that mess up cardstock when I stack die cuts together like this. Nobody will ever see it, and it's a good way to keep it from going to waste. So I stack those together just for dimension. Then I'm adhering it so that it covers up that border where the vellum meets the cardstock. I'm again using liquid adhesive for this, as I feel it holds nicely, but any adhesive should work. Now you could trim off everything hanging off the edges so that you can put it into a regular note card. However, I decided to leave the pieces hanging off the side of the card, and I'll just put it in a bigger envelope. I finished it off by white heat embossing a hello greeting from the new Altenew Wild Ferns stamp set that I'll show you later. Here you can see the gold embossing, the added dimension that we have behind our flower thanks to those extra stacked die cuts, and how the top portion of the card is vellum and the bottom portion is cardstock. Now I made a second card using the black outline flower. On that one I didn't stamp the stripes on the bottom, and I didn't stack the die cut. I just glued it straight onto the card, and you can see the difference between the two. I often like the shadow behind a flower by doing that stacking, but in this case I think the one layer die cut on the left works nice too. I did also add some pearls to this one since I didn't have the stripes on the bottom. I felt it needed a little extra something. And you can see how the top portion of the card is see-through. Again, I'll have that video on the top right showing another version of this if you want to check it out. Okay, my next card example is to use vellum to create a belly band for a card. This is a wrap that goes around a card that the person slides off to open the card inside. This card features the Altenew Leaf Medallion stamp set. You can see there on the right many ways that you can use the different leaf rings together to create fun looks. I also like that there are lots of sentiments that are good for sentiment strips. Now I'll be doing the basic use of this leaf medallion stamp set, but look at some of the other ways. You can do kind of like a pinwheel look here, or just stamp some of the rings to create maybe a wreath like the top left, or the smaller flower clusters on the right. This time I'm starting with white cardstock that is 5 inches by 10 inches, and I'm scoring 2.5 inches from each end. This will create a 5 by 5 square gatefold card. So I'm folding the two pieces together and they'll meet in the middle, and then I can reinforce those score lines. I've really enjoyed making square cards lately. I think it's nice to do a different size. Okay, so I'm using some tape here just to tape the card close so it stays shut while we do our stamping. I'm starting with the biggest leaf ring first from the leaf medallion stamp set, lined it up so it was center on my card, and stamped that with the lightest purple ink. I then added the next ring in. It's very easy to line up. You just make it so that the leaves are in between the ones that you've already stamped. And I'm using the next darkest shade of purple ink. And again, I'll talk about all of these ink colors later in this video. I continue to stamp the rings from the leaf medallion stamp set, moving towards the darker color towards the center of the flower. And then there is a small image that goes in the center that I used gold heat embossing on, just so it would stand out a little bit. Okay, so now we can remove the tape, and you can see how awesome this image is on this particular square gatefold card design. It just works perfectly with it. Okay, so now it's time to create that belly band that will go around this card. I wanted my vellum to have a purple tint to it, but I didn't have any purple vellum. So here's the trick that I do. I just take a dye ink pad and rub it generously onto the vellum. Keep in mind that it only picks up some of the color, so you need to use a much darker ink to get a small bit of tint. Here I'm using a darker purple color, applying it very generously. Then you want to buff off all the excess and then heat set it so that none of that ink rubs off. But you can see that beautiful soft purple tint that we have to that vellum. This is a great way to change up your vellum and get more colors. Again, make sure you heat set it well so the color doesn't rub off. Now I'm going to hold this centered on the front of our card. I'm doing it towards the top so I can make sure I'm creating it straight. Folding the vellum around one side of the card and then around the other side of the card, making sure that I'm not too tight, because you want the vellum band to slide off easily when the recipient gets it. After reinforcing those two fold lines, I'm using some double-sided tape to adhere the two ends together. They'll overlap a little bit on the back, and that's the perfect place to adhere them together. Now I can slide this right over my card and we have a fun belly band. To finish the band off, I added a Hello die cut with gold cardstock. This is the Altenew Simply Hello die. And then I white heat embossed a small sentiment underneath it, and that's from that Needlework Motif stamp set that I showed you earlier. You can see that purple tint to the belly band, and when we slide this off, you have your gatefold card inside. If you wanted to, you could stamp something on the inside of the card too, maybe another sentiment, but I plan to just write a personal message there. So it's nice to have that belly band to keep your gatefold card closed. Belly bands are very popular, like in wedding stationery and such, and I thought it'd be fun to do that in today's video. Okay, my next example for a vellum card is the type of vellum card I make the most, and it uses large die cuts so that you can have a place to write your sentiment. I'm using the Altenew Leaf Medallion die. This matches up with the stamp set that I just used, but you can use it separately as I am here. I'm putting the outline and the leaf die itself together and running it through my Gemini Junior to die cut this beautiful intricate image. I will then use the outline alone to die cut from a few pieces of white cardstock. We'll need 3 different solid die cuts for this card design. Next, I wanted to make my detailed die cut really beautiful metallic looking. So I press VersaMark ink on it. I'm adding a layer of gold embossing and heating that. And this gives it a beautiful metallic look. You could use metallic cardstock if you have that. After I did 1 layer of gold embossing powder, I let it cool and I thought, you know what? I want this to be silver instead. I changed my mind. So onto the cool embossing powder, I added another layer of VersaMark ink, and this time I put on my silver embossing powder. That's fine. The silver will cover up the gold, no problem. And by doing multiple layers of embossing powder, you get like a rounded edge to your die cut, and that way it looks like a beautiful embellishment. Next, I die cut the outline only from some light purple cardstock, and I'm using my Picket Fence life-changing brushes to apply some purple ink towards the center of my flower. I find these brushes are the best for creating dark color towards the center of something that softens on its way out. It really creates a beautiful look. So after I've applied all of that ink, I am adding some strong liquid adhesive to the back of our silver die cut, and I'll glue this right on top of the purple die cut where we added the ink. That way, when you look through the holes of this die cut, you see darker purple towards the center and lighter purple towards the edge. Next, I created a vellum note card that is 5 inches by 5 inches. I have one of my solid white die cuts, and I'm actually starting on the back of the card. I find that's the easiest way to do this particular design, so just stick with me here. I'm gluing one to the back of the card, and I'm trying to center it up as best as I can. Once I have that in place, I'll flip it over and open the card and glue the next solid die cut to the inside of the card where I'll be writing my personal message. So we have one on the back and one on the inside. The reason I have one on the back is to hide our adhesive and also have a place to do my little handmade by Jennifer stamp. Now I have my third white die cut. I'm putting adhesive on it, and I'm putting it adhesive side up, lined up with the other die cuts, and then I will close my vellum card onto it. Doing it this way allows me to have all my die cuts lined up from the front of the card to the back, and no adhesive shows through to the other sides. On the front of the card, we can add that great medallion that we made with all the inking and embossing. For sentiment on this one, I used one of the older Altenew stamp sets, the Halftone circles. I used that hello, thanks, and crafty friends sentiment a lot. I white heat embossed it on dark purple cardstock and added it to the center of our card. Here you can see where there are plenty of places to write messages and even a place to stamp on the back. On the silver embossing, I also glued a bunch of silver gems just for some sparkle. I really like to place gems in repeated pattern die cuts like this. I've been doing it for some time now, and it's something that I'm addicted to. But even though you don't see them, they catch the light a lot when you tilt it. Okay, now I have one last card I'm going to show you, but I'm not actually going to show you the process of, because I'm saving this for another video, because there is a really cool technique that I did when I was stamping on the vellum. But I wanted to show you the vellum card design today. So stay tuned, this video will be coming very shortly. I'm just showing it here because it's another vellum card design option. In this case, I have 2 note cards that are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. One is made of vellum and one is made of white cardstock, and I put them together for an overlay look. I tied some string around the top, and that's what's holding them together. Now keep in mind, when you stamp on vellum, the color will be much lighter than when you stamp on cardstock. I use the same colors to stamp the ferns on cardstock here as I did on the vellum, so you can see the difference. And be sure to check out that video because I have tips for stamping on vellum and a fun technique that you will really like, and that will be coming soon. And by the way, here is the Altenew Wild Ferns stamp set that I used. I really like these for background images. I think they're gorgeous and can be matched up with any flowers. Okay, now before we go, I wanted to show you a closer look at the new sets of Altenew inks that are out. I'm a big fan of Altenew inks. They are available in sets of 4 or individually. But what's nice is there's a light, a medium, a dark, and an extra dark in the same color family. So it makes stamp layering very easy. One of the new sets is the greens that you see here, the Firefly, Grassfield, Shadow Creek, and Mountain Pine. I wanted you to see in a comparison to the other greens available from Altenew. That's why I have it turned here. You can see it as a very true green. So I kind of struggled with greens in the past. This one really fits the bill for me because it's that Kelly green there in the middle. So I'll use this for a lot of my floral images. All of the green stamping that I did in today's video used these 4 inks. There's also a new set of purple ink. The top and the bottom rows of purple are the older colors, and the newer colors are the middle ones here that start with wisteria. Now that hydrangea is a beautiful, perfect purple color to me. It has a little bit of a blue tint, but it's just gorgeous. And there is also a new set of gray inks. Altenew has quite a few different gray inks, and I like this one because it's the most true gray of all. So the top and the bottom ones are the older ones, and this one here in the middle that starts with Silver Lake includes gray denim, cloudy night, and charcoal soot. That's the new set of grays. I think it'd be nice to stamp an outline image with the gray denim or cloudy night and do coloring on that as a nice alternative to a black outline. Last but not least, there is a new set of browns. It's the bottom row here, vanilla cream, hazelnut, almond butter, and milk chocolate. And I am in love with that vanilla cream. That's great for a soft background. It has a little bit of a yellow tint to it. So you'll be seeing me use that in future videos. Well, there you have it. A look at the new Altenew ink colors and lots of vellum card ideas. I hope this was helpful and inspiring to you. In the YouTube description below, I provide links to the products I use. In the middle are those other 2 vellum card videos that you might like. You can also hit subscribe there at the top left or go to my blog at the top right for much more information. I appreciate you spending this time with me, and we'll see you soon.